Hi, everybody, it's Tim here, and welcome back to that Eurovision site, Eurovision with a Slice of Life. We are continuing on our recaps of all of the national selections that have occurred this season. I'm joined by the lovely Daniel, uh,
Hello.
and we are going to go to the Baltics once again, and we will be talking about Estonia's Eesti Laul. Okay, then. So, if you haven't already followed the season, I mean, of course you have, you would know that Estonia once again used Eesti Laul to select its Eurovision 2024 representative. And of course, the end result is 5 minutes in pull-up with Nedest Narkutikumides Eti Mi Ku Midagi. Oh my God, I am so
The drug
sorry.
song.
Yeah, they just keep calling it the drugs, and obviously they've changed some lyrics on that. But
N-
I am so
Not the
sorry.
ones you'd expect.
I am just very sorry if I butchered that, first of all. Um, but let's start off with looking at the season itself. Daniel, what are your thoughts on Eesti Laul this year?
I think, as a whole, I really like Eesti Laul in general. I think there's more often than not, there's at least a few very good songs that I like every year. This year, I think a bit of a downgrade from last year, but that was, for me, a very strong last year. It wasn't necessarily bad this year. I just feel like it was a lot of middle of the road songs that I don't really care about either way. They're not offensively bad, but I won't remember them. But as well, they always have something decent, and I think for me the best three songs really were the ones that got to the super final. So I think they've chosen well.
I think for me it's like SC is a bit of a hit and miss for me. Um, some years I'd follow it religiously. I'd say that pre-COVID a bit, but I think this year it's been a bit of a I'm the same with you. Like, I'm a bit middle of the road, but it's nothing's bad, nothing's good. It's just that I don't think I'll remember it, but I think they have managed to whittle down
Yeah.
everything accordingly. But obviously this year's competition had a bit of a change because
Mm.
you still have 20 songs, but the format's changed. It's just one semi-final, the and then five of the songs qualified directly to the final. And I was just wondering, what are your thoughts on that format change?
Awful. I think MGP had auto qualifiers for a bit. It didn't really work for them because and it's not worked this year because if you look at the people who auto qualified, only one of them got to the super final and really did well at all. So it's like there's definitely better songs that didn't get out of the semi final because there was already 5 slots reserved for songs that, as the votes showed, aren't necessarily better than them and didn't deserve to get to the final automatically. I'm also just the same with Latvia. I'm not a fan of having one semi final. It just feels unnecessary and a bit mean, really, because especially when like it's just not really fair on the ones that like Traffic, who was a song I liked, didn't get through to the final, but it was better than most of the ones that auto qualified. So I don't really see the logic there. And I think it's clear that the best one, you want to have good songs in a semi final because you want people to watch the semi final. So you're not going to put in all the one. You're not going to put like Ollie in, who a lot of people will be there for, or Vis Minus, who a lot of people who will be watching for straight to the final because you want people to watch the semi-final, so it just really creates a conflict of interest. Whereas I think the format they had last year was just better. I think it gives you more shows, which is we love shows, and it means that if you divide the songs well between the semi-finals, the final will be overall better quality. I think last year especially, I didn't like a lot of the songs in there, but they didn't make the final, so I enjoyed watching the final that year.
I think for me, it's that I get what they were doing. They're trying to spice things up, but obviously it was a bit, I'm not sure. And I think the 40, because the way that the 20 were selected was the jurors listened to the studio cuts. So I think the negative of that is some songs are on studio, but they're, oh my God, they sound so great. It looks much better
Yeah,
live on stage. And I might have think that there might have been some instances where the studio sounds great,
yeah,
production's good, but then doesn't translate well onto the
yeah,
stage. So I think it it's a hit and miss. But uh, um I don't know what they're gonna do going forward because they've had a few format changes already
yeah.
recently in the past few
I
years. And
even if it's a bad one, just stick with it. As I'd rather have a not so good format that is consistent
mhm,
than a decent one that goes into a bad one that goes into a good one because it alienates the casual viewer, I think. That
mhm,
you It's like with Melfest and the age gap ones, you know that that's the format. That will always be the format. You know
mhm,
what's going on. If like in SPL, if you have like quarterfinals one year but not another year, then a runoff vote and then jury and televote qualifies and then two televote only qualifies, it's just a bit messy.
mhm.
I think,
Just trying to find consistency, hopefully.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
the best national finals are the ones that are consistently on brand, like, and the ones with the a lot of the ones I see that people don't necessarily like are the ones that are chopping and changing like every year because there's no point in liking something if it's just going to change in the next year
Mhm.
because there's nothing to get used to.
Yeah. Okay then. Well, looking at this, I mean, fingers crossed, whatever they decide, hopefully not another change in the format. But in any case, obviously, shows happened and we've already known who won. I'm not going to try and pronounce the name of the song again. Um, I mean, I know you've touched upon this. Right winner.
I think something else about the show is it was pretty obvious after the semi-final they'd won the whole thing because if that song got the jury points in Eesti Laul, they've won. Gotta say, like the biggest artists in Estonia, they are going to win a televote. But in terms of how it will do at Eurovision, I think any other year it would do a lot better than it would do this year because of how much competition in similar upbeat songs there will be. I think it's a case of it will very comfortably qualify from its semi-final, but once it gets to the final and there's just so more televote magnet songs for it to compete with, I see it coming just unstuck a bit. And I think the other televote magnets one have more going for them, I think, that can appeal to the casual viewer. It will get a really decent amount of televote points. I think only jury votes he'll maybe get like friends from the Baltics. But other than that, I think it will struggle because it's not something the juries go for. It just isn't.
I think for me, yeah, I do agree with the sentiment in that. the minute I saw, it, I was like, different. It's and looking at the composition of the semi-final at the minute. Oh, actually, no, we're recording this already at the end of the season. And looking at the composition in the running order, it looks like it would definitely qualify. I think Estonia stands somewhere unique enough for it to get to the final. But when it gets to the final, you've got that you've got songs that are similar to it that have also
Yeah,
qualified, and you as a viewer are just like, my concern is a local would just say these all sound the same,
yeah,
and I don't know who to vote for, or like, okay, I might vote for the one that I've actually like pulled me
yeah,
in from the stage performance. And I think that's the only main concern for me, is that Estonia, it might have been a jury magnet. I mean, looking at the voting composition, like, it was third place in the jury vote in Eesti Laul. Ollie won the jury vote, and they were third. So and then and on the televote, obviously they've won the televote.
yeah,
So it's my main concern is how would that translate? It's as if like but compared that with like last year where Alika had a bit of a televote, so it managed to go cross over the line to the final, and then when it got to the final, it got the
yeah,
jury, like, the jury vote that it deserved. So you're
yeah.
just thinking, and you're just like, are they are they going to be able to replicate this or not? But it's that
I
question,
think
like.
I think it'll get decent enough televote, but not to offset what I think will be bottom three with the juries. I think
Mhm,
because I think national final jury votes are a lot different to Eurovision not jury votes
mhm.
because of the people who are on the panels and stuff like that. I can't see it coming left-hand side at all. I think in the low 20s, I think it will finish. Not again, I think any other year, maybe it could get like a Treneletto type result, but not this one.
You'd think that it could maybe do left hand side of the televote, basically, but the
Easily, yeah, but very few jury points, and
yeah.
I think a
Mm,
very top heavy televote this year. I think as
yeah.
well because of the sheer amount of songs that are geared towards it in a very big way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think
Mm-hmm.
it'll we won't get a carrier storming it this year. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
we'll get five carriers each are trying to out carrier each other,
Oh my God. That
which
that that
I do think that it's a breath of fresh air to not have someone we're fairly sure is pretty obviously going to win the whole thing this year. I think
yeah, I think it's gonna be I think we're in a 2011 scenario where
yeah,
the votes are just gonna be too spread out that it's not gonna be obvious until we
yeah,
get to it. But looking, we've touched upon this, so just to explicitly confirm, qualification, yes or no? Yes.
easily, yes.
Yeah. And on the final, you're saying right hand side
Yeah, say
potentially.
middle right hand
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, I think I can go higher personally. I think you because I think enough televote magnet, but definitely not enough in the
Yeah,
jury. Or it might get a bit, that might see the humor in it, but who knows? But looking at the selection itself, I mean, you've touched upon traffic. Like, is there anyone else that you think, I
I
would have
think
loved to have seen a bit better? Like, who do you think was robbed, basically?
uh, I wouldn't say she was robbed, but the other song I liked quite a lot in Estila was Kathy Moya by Nerlys Fiksu, who it was sort of like a big, really big musical theatre type ballad, which is her background in music. So it sort of made sense that that's what she'd go for, and she did very well with the juries because of it. I think a couple other songs like Serotonin and Eight Vikma was fairly decent. Something I'm surprised I liked was Carlos Ucarede because I never like that stuff, and but it somehow got into my head, and not 99 times out of 100 I would hate that, but for some reason I didn't, and it's on the playlists now. So
I think for me, obviously I will say Traffic, obviously, because I've followed Eesti Laul a few times enough that I do like their songs, and I think it was, if I remember correctly, yeah, Stig, of course, co-wrote this. So,
yeah,
I think anything Stig touches, I'm automatically gonna like.
yeah,
I think another one would be the one that I think that I really like is which one was it? I really like Carlos's entry. Uh I think it's just because of the fact that yeah, I just need to confirm this. Yeah, he is one of the ones that qualified. They're like on
yeah,
the final. So I think another negative thing of this is exposure.
yeah,
So the songs, I like the song personally. I think it not going through the semi-final stage has been a disadvantage because it
yeah,
didn't get much exposure. So obviously that meant less votes or like less exposure than
yeah.
the artists that have qualified in the semi-final. But hopefully he comes
I
back.
think I think not a song I personally like, but I think it'd be amiss not to touch on FOMO by Cecilia, which I think was very big in the Eurovision fandom. And
Hmm.
a lot of people very surprised it didn't make the final, myself included, because it's a song that will always gather quite a bit of support just
Hmm.
because of the type of song it is. There is always a subsection that will vote for that, and I'm surprised they didn't come out in as big numbers as they did, because I would have thought sure qualifier, maybe even contender at the start of the season,
Yeah.
but then it just didn't.
Hmm. But yeah, I mean, well, we're here now, so hopefully there's that. One final thing I wanted to touch on is I think we've touched upon this briefly already is um what would you want to see changed if they do bring back
Yeah.
SD Loud in 2025?
I I think two semi-finals with 10 people each, five qualify from each 10-person final. Maybe if you want to get a little edgy, maybe four from each and then a wild card or something. And, I'd like to see the voting price go down. I know it went down already this year, but it's still way too high, I think. Like a euro 40 in a country where the hourly minimum wage is about €5 is kind of ridiculous. I know they've got like they need to make money to fund the show, but I think it would be putting a lot of people off voting entirely. I think maybe you could do a system of like you have, say, a couple of free online votes, and then if you want to vote more, here's a euro per vote or something like that. And I'd also, I'm pivoting to people who I like to see back. Uh, CC, I think anytime she enters, she's great. I think Elizabeth Tiffany from the runner-up in 2022, she's sort of disappeared off the face of the earth a bit. I'd like her to come back, and not necessarily this next year, but in the future, I think Alika could come back with the other side of her discography. Like, because she showed in the Interact this year with Bedwetters, she's not just a ballad girl. She can do a really good like rocky sound, and there's songs like that on her album as well, like Udutles. I think especially a song in Estonian from her, like a more rock background type song that she could come back and it wouldn't be like the same thing where a lot of artists couldn't do that. And But I do think there's a lot of potential in SD Laul for a great national final that I just hope they can realize. And also, don't host your semi-final in a uni sports hall, please, because that would you get ratings good enough to host it in one of the better arenas in the country. So why there?
Was it talking about the final or is it before that?
The semi-final they hosted in the University of Tartu's sports gymnasium.
That's because of the culture thing.
Well, don't listen to me then.
But I understand why they had to do it, but take no ERR or Tartu, build an arena. But for me, I would say that keep a consistent pattern, and I do agree with the voting price because it's like I just keep looking at the votes and like you'd think that
If I'm
why the
if I'm
vote like
paying that much and it comes last, I'm traumatized.
imagine spending 20 euros and like oh my god, I only received 20 votes. That 20 votes was from me. But yeah, I will say for a country that is a bit, you know how like Estonians are like, oh my god, digital important.
Yeah,
You'd think that an app would be sufficient.
yeah.
That's all I'm saying, ERR. Like, you could do an app. Incorporate the ERR. You can incorporate the Eurovision app. Like, there's lots of things you can do. But and just a shout out to, hopefully CC to return and hopefully she does get her vengeance and actually gets through to Eurovision. But that's just my wish list. But in any case, what did you guys think of Eesti Laul this year? Let us know in your comments. And if you liked our discussion, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and push the notification bell to be one of the first people to find out when we have a new video. And also, don't forget to follow That Eurovision site at That Eurosite on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Bye.